Welcome to the Informator.net.
Alt-right or right-wing influencer Nick Fuentes is being accused of being a Fed. This is kind of a war that is going on between several people on the right. Nick Fuentes versus Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Milo Yiannopoulos, several other people. Nick Fuentes is 26 years old and he's a rising star. In fact, he's had some massive popularity recently. He was banned from pretty much everywhere, deplatformed, debanked. Nick has grown and grown and grown. And the thing that's controversial about him is that he has a lot of, I would say, very white nationalist ideology. Now, why are they calling him a Fed?
He is clearly part of a campaign to discredit non-crazy right voices.
Tucker is saying very clearly he believes Nick Fuentes is some sort of a Fed. Fuentes, though, says the same about Tucker Carlson.
This guy glows so much in the dark.
Okay, so who's the Fed? Is it Nick Fuentes? Is he the Fed? Is it Tucker Carlson? Is he the Fed? Is it somebody else? Is Candace Owens the Fed? I mean, who's the Fed in this group? Because they're all kind of pointing fingers at each other. Milo Yiannopoulos gets in on this and points the fingers even more at Nick Fuentes. And he says, remember when Nick had his money frozen by DOJ? Ask him how he got them to unfreeze it. Answer, informing. Then ask when it was unfrozen. And Elon Musk writes, doesn't make sense that the FBI leaves Fuentes alone unless he's an asset of some kind. Milo then shares a video, Nick Fuentes at J6, saying, we're taking the Capitol back.
Moving towards the Capitol. It appears we are taking the Capitol back.
And Milo says no charges because Nick was one of 30 or so confidential informants working for the FBI on January 6th. Other people, like Nick Fuentes, were carted off to jail. So why wasn't Nick? I'm not going to lie. The J6 video, him not being really incarcerated over that. Somebody can start off not a Fed, but they can quickly become a Fed if their livelihood's on the line, if they can't make any money, they've been ostracized from absolutely everywhere. This is the point of debanking. You can start controlling people if you can do this. So that is the accusation. The accusation is Nick Fuentes is a Fed. Nick then points the finger at Tucker. I'll let you decide. Who do you think is the Fed?
All right, everybody. So you just saw right there, that was Kim Iverson. If you haven't seen her show, you should watch it. It's a pretty good show. But you're probably wondering, AP, why are you showing me this? A lot of people watch these shows, right? These are all famous podcast stars she's talking about. And if you watch my show, my assumption is this, is that if you're following me, then you have good discernment. And that's not to toot my own horn, but what it means is if I'm talking about God and you chose to follow me, a majority of you guys are probably in the belief that, hey, you know what? I read my Bible too. This guy makes sense. AP ain't trying to steer us wrong. He's trying to tell us what's going on. That's what he's trying to do. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. So I watch these shows, but I have a great discernment when I watch them. You always have to consider your source whenever you hear it. Anything. That's how I watch shows. I always consider the source. I use great discernment because there's always going to be a bias no matter who you're listening to. Like some people could hear my show and say, well, you're biased because you're a Christian, so you're only going to go with Christian beliefs. But the thing is, I'll tell you, yes, that's 100% true. I am a Christian, and I look at the world through the lens of the Bible. You know, that's how I look at everything, and that's what this show is about. Like I said, there's many topics I can talk about, but there's a reason I'm doing this topic, and it's not a very popular one. I'm doing it because I feel it's my duty to do this. The reason I decided to talk about this right now is because it's going on, and like I said, a lot of you guys are watching that, but at the same time, I care about what you're watching and how you interpret it. Because like I'm telling you, when it comes to these podcast guys, here's one of the things you noticed about all of them. I don't care if it's Ian Carroll, Joe Rogan, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and, you know, whoever else is feuding and so forth. The thing is they all have a bunch of beliefs, and they're all very confused, right? They believe in aliens. They believe aliens created us. They're just all over the place. And here's the thing. Before a lot of these people were even saying anything that they're saying that makes sense to a lot of people, I've been saying it. Like before Candace Owens ever talked about the Jews and how the Jews own everything and the banks and all that, I've been talking about that stuff since the 90s. You know, so this is like all their stuff they're saying, they're barely understanding it. These are things as a Christian that we've known for a long time. Some of you have probably talked about it yourself amongst your own friends in your own circles. Because if you're a Christian, you would be considered a conspiracy theorist. And the reason why is because of the book of Revelations. We know what's supposed to happen. At some point in time, there's going to be a one world government. There's going to be the mark of the beast. We know all these things, which is considered conspiracy because you're believing the government, whether it be the US government, the UN, or whoever, someone's going to take hold of everything and they're going to install this tyrannical government over all the people. That's a conspiracy theory because it hasn't happened yet. So, as a Christian, if you're a Christian that really reads your Bible, you're going to know these things. So, we've known a lot of these things before any of these talk show hosts. So when Candace Owens talks about, oh, the Jews this and Jews that, it's like, well, you know what? I've known that forever. The difference is, and if you've been watching any of my videos, because a lot of people get confused when I talk about, like, say, the Jews, like, are you with them, against them? What are you doing? I've mentioned it. It's clear as day, but it's only clear to the elect. Because if you're a Christian, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not a Christian, you get kind of confused at what I'm saying. And some of that is actually meant just to be. It's just going to be that way because as we'll get into, I'll show you God and Satan both use confusion. That is one of their tactics. But real quick, so sticking with these stars, right? Like I said, they believe in a lot of things. And I just hope that when you hear them, like I said, you use good discernment because some of the stuff they say is just nonsense, or they speak from emotional grounds rather than just from wisdom or knowledge. They're just talking with their emotions. Like, for instance, Candace Owens. Here's the thing. Very articulate, very smart. We all know that. That's not even debatable. She's a very smart woman. The problem with Candace Owens, and I think if you're listening to me, you have to have saw this. Ever since she got, into her little beef with that one channel she was it the Daily Wire? She kind of lost it. And she's been on this rampage of hating Jews since. And the reason why I say hating Jews, she can say she doesn't all she wants, but the reason why we know this, like, let's just be real. When you're upset, like when you're in a relationship with somebody and you break up, this is not all relationships, but we all seen this. There's drama. A lot of times, the couples hate each other and they start talking a lot of shit, like things like they over exaggerate because they want you to believe their side of the story, so they just over exaggerate. The bottom line is this: the Daily Wire screwed up. They screwed up. Candace Owens was good. They treated her wrong, and I think most of you would agree with that. But at the end of the day, what happened? Candace ends up getting fired, and all she wants to do is talk crap about them because they're Jew owned, right? So that's been her whole thing ever since she's been fired. Has been that is I hate the Jews, I hate the Jews, I hate the Jews. Anything I can say about the Jews that's negative, I'm going to say it because she felt it's the Jews that attacked me. They attacked me. They attacked my livelihood. They tried to hurt my show, my reputation. So she has this anger, and I understand that. But at some point, when you keep talking about them, you know what I mean? It just shows that you're bitter. And I think that's how we all look at it. Like, you know what I mean? When she said her piece about them, and she made a couple of shows, because I seen her made, her first couple of shows after she was fired. I agreed with her. I was sympathetic towards her. But after a while, it was like every show, she had to say something about the Jews in a way that was kind of like, ambiguous. Just, you know, it was just a way she was trying to turn her fans against them. And I saw it and I was like, you know what? You kind of lost your way here, and you're trying to get people just to side with you. And it's like I thought you were beyond that. I thought you were more like, hey, I talk about news, I talk about things that are going on that nobody wants to talk about. So to me, she went off the rails a little bit, and that's why I'm not a fan. Tucker Carlson, I like Tucker. I hear shows sometimes, not all the time, but let's be real. Tucker Carlson, now he talks about God and stuff like that. And I don't know, like in his heart, he's a good Christian or something like that. But you know what? I'm not God. You know what I mean? People talk about this. I'm with God now. I'm not with God. We don't know. We don't know. We just know off actions. What I know, this is what I can tell you about Tucker Carlson. This is how I felt about him. He worked at Fox News, and for a long time, he was a sellout. He didn't talk about any of the things he's saying now. That's how we know he's a sellout. He didn't never mention really about God. He didn't even believe in conspiracies. Like all of a sudden, he's friends with Alex Jones. Do you remember when everybody hated Alex Jones? He was the big conspiracy theorist. He was like the black sheep of podcasting, right? He's been around for a long time. I've listened to Alex Jones for a long time. I don't believe everything Alex Jones says. You have to understand, I've kind of mentioned this, but I've been doing this stuff since the 90s. Like, I've been researching aliens and then reading the Bible, studying things like the pyramids. Those were all the things I was interested in. So I was in the libraries constantly reading these books and watching documentaries, learning about all these things. So I've always been into these kind of stuff. Eventually, there came a point where a lot of it just became entertainment. Because at the end of the day, what won out for me is the Bible. Because even when I was studying those things, I was studying the Bible. I would read things and watch any documentaries I could. The point is, some of that stuff is interesting. Aliens, it's interesting. Transhumanism, like Alex Jones used to talk about a lot. All that stuff was interesting. And there's always a bit of truth here, and there scattered around. But ultimately, what does it all come down to? To me, it comes down to you, the individual, because what does it matter if there's aliens or no alien? It doesn't really strike you on a personal level like the Bible does, like God's word, because eventually everything starts with you and it ends with you. You're born into this world, you become a person, and how you live that life matters. And then when you die alone. You're not dying and taking Tucker Carlson and these people with you. You're going to be judged off of everything you did individually. And that's why, to me, it was never really a debate. The Bible is the number one thing that matters. All this other stuff, it's entertainment. And that's pretty much what it's all about. So Tucker Carlson, the reason why I say he was a sellout, because he didn't do any of these things. He's only talking this way now because what? He got canned? And then he's like, hey, I need to stay relevant. He goes on to podcasting now, and now he talks about God and all that. And I'm not saying he's not a Christian, because I can't say that. I don't know what's in his heart. All I'm trying to tell you is the history of these guys. And then you got this guy right here, Ian Carroll. He's someone that's kind of new on the scene that I've barely starting to hear about, and he's another one all over the place. Talks about aliens, and I don't know. I've heard claims, but I'm not going to get like right here. If you can obviously see, I put these things on my screen. So if you're not hearing this as a podcast, which I think this video is going to be way too short that I'm even going to put it as a podcast, you can read the screen, pause it, and do what you want. I pulled a lot of this stuff off the internet for you guys, so you can look it up. But Ian Carroll, like I said, yeah, I've heard a little bit about him. I know they like him in this podcast world. And if you notice this thing too with the podcasting, it's like a lot of them are buddies and they help each other grow. Okay, and it really just becomes about money and entertainment. They talk about things that are very mainstream underground, if that makes sense to you. Because when I was researching aliens and all that, people didn't know shit. I was like all this stuff they're barely talking about. I was like, I knew that shit like a long time ago. But all of a sudden, it went from the underground. When I was doing it, was the underground. Alex Jones was the underground. When he talked about the stuff he was talking about, nobody wanted to put this guy on. But now he's popular because it went from the underground to just slightly underground, but it's popular now because a lot of people are there. They're right there where it's almost mainstream, right? Conspiracy theory has almost become mainstream. And like I said, right now, all that stuff rose from the underground. It's just right under the mainstream where people can still claim it's underground. But really, is it? I mean, there's so many. Like I said, you got all these stars of podcasting. You got Elon Musk talking about it. You got everybody talking about it. So it's almost mainstream now. So what I'm trying to get at is all these people right here, it's all about money. At the end of the day, they're all helping each other make money and talk about these issues that, they catch people's attentions. But how much of this stuff do they really believe? I don't know. I'd be very suspicious of that. And I'll tell you why. Because here's the difference. I'm talking about God, which is not going to get the big audience. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to do what they're doing. That's not to say, oh, what happens if you grow? Or no, it's never going to change, because this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm about. If I grow off the basis of what I'm talking about, I'll take it as this is what I was meant to do, and this is what God wanted. Because I'm not going to all of a sudden change. Oh, hey, I got 1 million followers, so now I got to make up shit. Now I got to actually be controversial. No, what I'm speaking right now is the damn truth. That's just the bottom line. These guys right here, they're just saying shit they think that you want to hear so they can make money. So I would be very cautious on how much of the stuff they say that I believe. Or when you listen to them for the entertainment value. it's not to say that they don't get things right. I think they do. They obviously do. I wouldn't listen to them if I didn't think I got anything out of it. But I tell you, most of it's entertainment. And then there's that small portion which, hey, they do tell you some things that you probably might otherwise not know. But like I said, you just saw that clip that I showed you. And right now, so what's going on is that Nick Fuentes and the Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, they're kind of all going back and forth, right? Like Kim says. Fuentes, there was a clip of him the other day I was watching, and I don't watch his show, but I've seen clips of his show. I don't watch him because I can hear in his voice, just like with those two brothers, the ones that are always talking shit about girls and want these young men to basically have no respect for women. I can't think of their name at the top of my head, but I know some of you guys know who I'm talking. Definitely not guys you want around your daughters. But anyways, Nick Fuentes has that vibe. So I don't hear his show, but I had seen clips. And the clip I saw the other day was him basically talking about how the government or the CIA has always been involved with media. And I agree with that. That's something he was saying that's like, yeah, that I 100%. And then the way my mind puts it together is you see Tucker Carlson, which we know, which I seen clips of him talk about, knowing that his dad was in the CIA. But all of a sudden, when he's talking to Candace Owens, he says, I didn't know my dad was in the CIA. So he's already caught in a lie there. I don't know if any of you guys know about that, but if you don't, look it up. He was caught in a lie right there. He did know his dad was in the CIA. And then, like I said, to me, the CIA, Operation Mockingbird, I did an article on that. If you guys haven't seen that, I would go to the informator.net. No charge, no nothing. I do have an article on there about Kash Patel and Bongino and how they had ties to the government. And that's probably why you're not getting the Epstein files. But the point being is, yes, the CIA has always been involved, or at least for a very long time, with the media, because every country does it. It's a way of spreading propaganda. They get across the things they want done. And in this case, they're not stupid. I don't even know if some of you know. I know some of you will because you're probably old enough. But like, for instance, that one singer, what's his name, James Brown, the one that's sing "Coming to America" and that one Rocky IV movie. The CIA or the FBI was entangled with him because back in those days when there was a lot of issues with the Black Panthers, the CIA and the FBI were trying to basically infiltrate some of the black stars. I even heard, and I've like I said, I got so much information, man, that sometimes I forget stuff myself. Muhammad Ali, I heard he was approached by the FBI. I think I saw that on a movie or something like that. So I don't doubt that that's true. The point is they were really worried about, the country was going through some hard times with the war and the civil rights movement. That was the big deal, right? So the CIA was trying to get in bed with these black influential people because they wanted to keep tabs on what's going on, and they wanted them to basically spread the message of, hey, don't fight, don't be hostile. They were just trying to tamper things down. That's what the feds do, and that's what the CIA has always done. So when it comes to these podcast stars, come on, it doesn't take a rocket science, it doesn't take a genius to start to know that at some point, look at some of the shit these guys are talking about. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that these guys are talking a lot of mess. Some things that you couldn't get away with normally. So it wouldn't surprise me that they've all been visited by the feds, right? Or by the CIA, and they become this tool. So would it surprise me if like some of the stuff they're saying is really just to keep tabs on people? Like when you follow them, they're like, hey, look who's following. John Smith is following them, Mark Ramirez is following them. Okay, so they kind of make this. You'd be a fool not to think that they're already making files of people that if there ever was a one world government, or if we started going that route, they would already have people that they would look at as these people could be trouble. So you can ask yourself that. Are you on one of those lists? Maybe. I wouldn't doubt if I am, because I'm a Christian. At some point, Christians, especially outspoken Christians like myself, because I don't belong to a denomination, because I just read my Bible. There's really no rules. I'll just tell you what I want because I read my Bible. I could tell you straight what God's saying. Where a lot of churches, like I said, you're only going to hear a few verses. You're not really going to get the whole thing unless you go home and read your Bible. But the point is the CIA has been involved with all this. So when it comes to podcast stars, why wouldn't they? Just why wouldn't they? These people have huge platforms. Candace Owens probably got about 5 million plus, if not more than that, subscribers, and all these guys, Tucker Carlson, they're all big. Ian Carroll's coming up. Nick Fuentes, you know about him. And then how about Elon Musk? We know Elon Musk gets involved by saying comments. And when Elon Musk says something, the internet reacts. He's got too many followers. He's got the richest man on the world, right? Enough said right there. He was involved with Trump in the administration for a little while, right? With Doge. Guy's got a lot of influence. He says something, people listen. And I know he's gotten a little bit involved on what's going on. And I think he's saying that Nick Fuentes for sure is some type of Fed or being used by the Fed because of the January 6th thing that you saw. So, like I said, you guys are listening to these people. Why am I even talking about this? I'm talking about it because it's in the news and I know a lot of you listen. And I just want you guys to be, discern on what you're feeding yourself here. Because if you're feeding the wrong thing, being fed the wrong thing, and then that's your brain's gonna follow, right? Next thing you know, you're believing in aliens and they made you and all this nonsense, and then you'll get away from God. I've talked about that all the time. Devil's always trying to pull you away from God, and he's gonna look for whatever you're interested in, heighten it, and send you in that direction. But I also want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about why the beefs, okay? Owens versus Fuentes, a live podcast debacle where Fuentes felt misrepresented and Owens fired back, highlighting ideological fractures within far right media. Well, you know, I didn't write that myself. I just looked that up. Carlson's involvement, he sided with Owens in criticizing Fuentes and broader far right circles, reinforcing conservative media fault lines. Here's the thing. Here's what I did pull off. Because the first thing I thought when I saw them all fighting is basically how Jesus describes in the last days about how everyone's going to go against each other. And I know, like, you might be like, well, what does that mean? Haven't you noticed that everybody's fighting? Everybody fights. We're talking in the UFO community, it's split. You got people that go with that Greer guy and believe his thing about aliens and being nice and the government knows about them, to that Elizondo guy, which they don't get along because Elizondo, he feels is a Fed and just making shit up. The point being is, I laugh at it because everybody's fighting. It's like Bigfoot community fighting with the alien, community. It's crazy. I hear preachers fighting on YouTube. Oh, that church is no good, or that church is no good. It's so out there. It's so out there that that's what comes to mind with me. Like, everybody is fighting. You got churches fighting, alien community fighting, governments fighting. That's not unusual. And you just see this extremism all around, right? There was even a time there where families were fighting. They probably still are. They've probably already parted ways. I know I have some family that are far left, right? They're big time liberals, and they don't talk to me anymore. I mean, it's like I see him every now and then. It's a hi, hey, how you doing? But we don't hang out or do any of those things because why? Well, because I'm all about God and I talk about God, which means to them I'm closer to the right, and they're leftists. And so we just really, there's a clash of thoughts there. But that brings me to what Jesus said. There's going to be hostility. Like, there's going to be brother against brother, daughter against father, and so forth. And you can see right here on my screen, that's Matthew 10:21-22, Mark 12:13, Luke 21:16-17. And y'all shall be betrayed by both parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends. And some of you shall they cause to be put to death, and you shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. See, so Jesus talked about this, about how there's just going to be this rise up against each other. And the reason why is because he had a line there that people don't know how to interpret, where he says, I didn't, come here for peace, but I came here to cause this stirrup amongst people. Put brother against brother in that language. And people were like, well, what is he here to do? A lot of people didn't understand it. Like, what did he mean by that? And what he meant by that, at least in my opinion, the way I get it from when I read, is that God is saying that once you learn the truth, once you learn about God and you know the real way, you start to realize that everything else is the wrong way. And because of that, many of you are going to become Christians. And once you become Christians, everyone's going to be angry at you, because you're no longer in that circle of confusion. you've departed from it, and then now no one likes you. But in this case, I bring it up because you see how everyone's fighting. I just thought it was very interesting that God talks about how these last days everybody's fighting. And then you got that. And then there's here. This is the other thing I thought about was the confusion. See, I don't know how much you guys hear about this or even thought about this, but in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, confusion was a tool used by God and by Satan. So I kind of look at this as what I see today was going on by people listening to these podcasters that are so everywhere and they're being influenced. I look at that as they're being influenced by Satan. Because at the end of the day, what is Satan trying to do? He's trying to confuse you. He wants you to go against God. So he's going to put, like I said, he's going to find things you're interested in them. He's going to heighten them. And then all of a sudden, you'll start to leave God. And you'll start to believe those silly theories that, we were made by aliens. Because remember what I said? I've said it in shorts. I said it now. What I've did 16 podcasts. The devil likes to put you in this state of questioning. Doesn't need you to believe him. Doesn't need you to worship him. He don't give a shit about that. He wants to confuse you and get you away from God. That's the ultimate goal. And so he uses it. But right here you can see where God used it. He used it in some battles. Deuteronomy 28:20. The Lord shall send upon 3 cursings, vexation and rebuke. The Lord shall smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart. And he also did that in Babylon, right? King Nebuchadnezzar, he made him go insane. So God uses that. He uses confusion. He confuses, like for instance, if you're not a part of the elect, you're gonna get confused. God's gonna confuse certain people purposely, like the Jews. The Jews are confused right now. They don't know what's going on. And I mentioned that before because it's the time of the Gentiles. So they are confused right now. But where does Satan use it? Remember in Job, right? Because Satan is the accuser of man. So God sent him down to go ahead and have his way with Job, as long as he didn't kill him, right? To put him to the test, right? And then in Corinthians, to deliver such an one unto Satan for the destruction of the flesh, that the spirit may be saved in the day of the Lord Jesus. So right there is saying the devil is reigning on this earth. And he's here to try to destroy you through your flesh, because that's the best way to get through to you. The flesh matters to us a lot, because why? Your flesh, you feel pain, so you know you don't want to get hurt. You don't want that blade to be put to your throat to denounce Jesus because it's going to hurt. That's what you're thinking, right? And then how about all the sexual pleasures? How about when you eat? The flesh is weak because of all the pleasures and pain that it feels. And that's what the devil's going to use for a lot of people, and it's going to work for a lot of people. So that's the whole point of this channel, right? Is to get you to get stronger in your faith. So when these days come, they will come. We don't know when, but they will come. You need to be strengthened in spirit. And hopefully you pass that along to your children, if you have them, or anyone you know, to have that strength in the Lord and know that when these times comes, you'll be ready. That's how I'm going to end this one. I know we started with the podcast, but I felt I had to talk about it because I know a lot of you guys are listening to these people. And I just want to make sure that you don't trust any of them. You take what they say with a grain of salt. A lot of them are just trying to make money, and understand that. And don't fall for it and go the wrong way. Before I let you go, make sure and check out the 13 disturbing traits of the end times. I think you'll enjoy it. Released it a few days ago. Let me know what you think. All right. I pray for all of you. God bless. Welcome to theinforminator.net.